was not easy. Some people have the journey not as difficult as I do, but it's not impossible. And I hope that my story can show that to people. So I grew up in a small town in Wisconsin. It's called Kaukauna. You might find the cheese in your store. It's a little small town. And whenever I said I wanted to work for NASA as a kid, people laughed at me. They're like, we have farms and cheese and beer, John Deere tractors. You're not getting in outer space. But it all came from watching the movie October Sky when I was 10 years old. I saw that and I was like, I want to design spaceships for NASA. That was the coolest thing. So if you haven't seen October Sky, anyone watching, go and watch it. 1999, Jake Gyllenhaal, classic, amazing performance. And it's based on a true story. So if you haven't seen it, really quickly, a young boy sees the first satellite, Sputnik, go across the night sky, gets inspired, builds rockets, eventually becomes a NASA engineer training astronauts. So I'm like, okay, that's my path. Got into college, going for mechanical engineering in Wisconsin. And I'm like, let's apply to NASA, right? Internships are the way to do this. So I found the website and I applied, and then I applied and applied and applied and applied. 1999, not getting anything back, classic, amazing performance. And it's based on a true story. So if you haven't seen it, really quickly, 150 applications, more than 150 applications, until I got my first NASA internship. So I'm working for NASA Langley out in Langley, Hampton, Virginia, NASA Langley Research Center. I realized I didn't have the educational background required to be a full-time employee. So I'm like, all right, grad school is a necessity. Found the grad school I wanted to go to, Georgia Tech, only lab in the country that does what it does in terms of systems engineering. So I applied there, nowhere else, got rejected. It's like, okay, well, I was kind of crying, a little bit I did in my office when I got that email because I was interning for an aerospace company in Illinois. Then I'm like, no, I got to figure out how to get in. So I replied to the admissions email and was like, sorry, I wasn't able to satisfy what you were looking for. How can I do better? And after emails back and forth for about 3 weeks, they let me into school, told me I had to pay my own way, which is $150,000 a year or something like that. And I'm like, oh, I'll figure it out, just accruing more debt. That's what we do as society. Bad idea. So I didn't want that to happen. So I reached out to every single aerospace professor and asked to be a GRA, a graduate research assistant, or a teacher's assistant. And one got back to me. We had a phone call. He gave me the job. So I got all of my tuition paid for and then a stipend to do research on top of that. And then set my sights on NASA JPL and went through 3 rounds of interviews. The last one, they flew me out to LA, put me in an 8-hour interview, presenting to a panel, having one-on-one interviews, 1-on-2, to not be given the job 2 months later. So I'm a month or 2 away from graduation. So I graduate with a master's in aerospace engineering with no job. I take a 10-week internship to prove to them I belong. Because to get in at NASA, really, it's internships. They need to see you. So I set up over 30 interviews for myself during that time. And on the last day of that internship is when I received word that a call would be coming to hire me on as a full-time engineer. So I was ecstatic, but then my internship ended and I waited 3 weeks until they called me and were like, yeah, we want to hire you officially.
Oh, man.
It's a long story.
That's a long 3 weeks, man.
Oh, my gosh. Every day I was on my phone. I emailed my former boss. I was like, I haven't heard anything yet. Is it real? Did you trick me? What's going on?
So you documented this incredible journey in your new book, which I've got right here. Yeah. Signed, thank you. I don't know if the green screen might stop it there, but NASA and beyond, perseverance to achieve the impossible. By the way, great bit of seeing the future there with perseverance in the name, since that's the name of the new rover. So well played on that one.
Yeah. Thank you.
So perseverance to achieve the impossible. Can you tell us a bit about what people can expect in this new book, sharing your journey with us?
So the book To NASA and Beyond is a memoir. So it describes my journey through adversity, kind of what I've just described, the 150 internship applications, being rejected from Georgia Tech, then getting paid and getting a full ride, getting rejected by NASA, and then working on the most advanced missions they have after they didn't give me a job. So it goes into depth in the play-by-play really of all those stories and other things that I was experiencing kind of at the same time, right? Because I grew up in a small town in Wisconsin, and my internships were in Illinois. For an aerospace company. NASA firstly was in Virginia. I think grad school was in Georgia Tech. So I'm moving 1,000, 2,000 miles away from home through this whole thing, right? And it's kind of tough to leave everything behind to chase a dream, right? So I talk a little bit about how I was feeling personally. Like, all of my closest friends and family are 1,000 to 2,000 miles away, and I'm going through these rejections over and over and over again. So you'll learn how I got into NASA, how I kind of dealt with the rejection and adversity along the way. And then I talk a little bit at the end about like my work there. It's primarily like leading up to getting the job at NASA. And I'm like, well, I can't just tease you with that. I got to tell you a little bit about what I did. And then some of the current things I was doing, like competing on American Ninja Warrior, like you said, the fit rocket scientist, where that comes from, and being a space educator, like where I am now and where I see myself going in the future. And it's also on Audible, if you just like listening to books. We got that too.
And you do narrate it, because I actually, so I was lucky enough to get a free copy. You sent me one and autographed it for me, so I bought the Audible version. Kevin reads it, so Kevin, as you can tell, has a very has a great speaking voice, so he's really awesome to listen to. I really highly recommend it. So this time last year at Space Symposium, you were kind enough to come out and be on this social media panel that it was me, you, and a few of our other friends that were there for that. And you made a really cool announcement during that you were going to be joining Curiosity Stream, which is an amazing platform. So can you tell people about it that may not know what it is, and also a little bit about what your role is with them?
Curiosity Stream is a streaming platform, kind of like Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, but it's all about factual documentaries. So the founder of Discovery Channel, John Hendricks, left Discovery Channel and then started this a year later. And that means it's got great storytelling. And this was before Discovery Channel went a little away from its prime vision. So we started this because he really wanted to be a source of credible content. So everything that's coming from Curiosity Stream is fact-checked, it's backed. Like, we don't have like a History Channel, aliens, like kind of thing. Everything is scientifically shown. And it's not just science, right? There's lifestyle, there's history, there's food. I am definitely all about the space and science. There's also animals, wildlife, biology. They even have a documentary right now about the COVID-19 crisis. Like, they pumped one out super quick to get, here's 11 minutes of factual content. It's a little outdated because it was like 2 weeks ago with new numbers. Essentially, what I'm doing for them is I am their brand ambassador for everything space and science. So I'm their face for anything that has to do with outer space content, and science content. And I make promotional videos. By promotional, it's not like, hey, like ShamWow guy, but it's teaching a little bit at the same time. So I'm watching a series right now called like Living Universe. It's a 4-part series. So what I'll do is I'll create a video. It's 2 to 3 minutes long and be like, hey, this is a 4-part video on Curiosity Stream. They're each an hour long. The first one, we're learning about exoplanets. Like, there's different ways to find exoplanets, and this is what they tell us. This is how many we have. If you want to learn a whole lot more about it and hear from other experts, go tune in and listen to the hour-long thing that you can hear a lot more of. So I also do interviews. If like last year we had the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. Yeah. Got my special 50 moon shirt on today.
Nice.
And I was doing interviews for newspapers and radio stations and magazines as a representative of Curiosity Stream, because they want to have experts also supporting their content. It's like, yeah, great, we've got these things on the screen, it's 2D that we can talk to or like listen to, but there's no interaction. So now they have an interactive way to have a personal relationship with the content or the brand in general. So there's me, there's Nathan, who is the ambassador for everything food, and then Stephanie is for everything like wildlife and conservation. And they're still building the team for more personal relations to bring this brand to life. So yeah, it's amazing. You can sign up for a 30-day free trial by going to curiositystream.com/Kevin. And it is anywhere from, there we go, we got the stickers. It's anywhere from like, I think $2.99 a month to like $14.99 for the whole year. And there's different levels of if you want HD or regular. And I think there's a special going on right now for $11.99 for the year, with us all being quarantined and at home right now.
Yeah. And it's really unbelievable that you can pay less than what you're paying for a Netflix account a month, you can pay for a year, and everybody's on there. Chris Hadfield has a show. Might have even more than one show. Yeah, Michio Kaku's on there. I mean, a lot of my favorite scientists, the people that inspired me, astronauts that inspired me, are on there. It really is one of the best things out there, and there's tons of stuff for families and kids. So if you're looking for other stuff to do, other than what we're getting ready to talk about with what Kevin's up to, make sure to check out Curiosity Stream. It really is. It's an amazing platform. And speaking of some of the other stuff that you're doing, because of everything that's going on right now, you've decided to start a new YouTube show, and you have quite a few already, but this one is a live show to teach kids between the ages of kindergarten and 5th grade and even older about the universe. So can you tell us everything about it? What's the name of the show, the purpose of it, what inspired it, everything, and give us some background, please.
A Place Called Space. That's the name of the show. It's on YouTube. So every single weekday morning during this lockdown with schools being closed at 9 a.m. Pacific time, I'm going live on YouTube to teach about outer space. And I try and do it in a fun, engaging way. So using things, like inflatable planets to demonstrate what's going on. Or Legos. I got a Lego Saturn V back here. So this morning we just talked about the moon landing. So figured out how long ago was it, hence the 50-year shirt here, what it looked like using the Saturn rocket, took it apart and launched it in different stages, going to the moon, landing on the moon. So it's fun and it's engaging. I answer questions throughout, and at the end, so it's 20 to 30 minutes of a time where you parents or teachers or anyone looking after some kids can be like, okay, watch this, I'll take a break. But I've been getting a lot of good feedback also from the adults that are tuning in with their children. Like, they've been asking some questions. I'm like, I love to answer a question about time dilation, but I don't think that the kindergartners are really going to understand at this point. So this one is geared really towards the elementary school students. I saw an opportunity where I could use my skills to try and help out in this time to really ease off the stress of the parents and the teachers and try to give back as I can using my expertise in our current world situation. So it's going to keep on going. Tomorrow, I might do stars. I come up with the episode the night before in case there's anything special or new. Right now, we don't know how long this is going to go, so we'll have to see how many episodes I'm signing up for.
And I think it's the more the better when it comes to the stuff that you put out, man. You're really great with it. And speaking of, so you talked about one of the kind of topics that we've talked about quite a few times now is what you used to work on when you were still at JPL, which is Europa. It's one of my favorites. It's one of your personal favorites. So we got to talk a little bit about it. It looks like the mission's moving forward. We're finally going to go to this moon of Jupiter. For those that don't know about it, it's a place that is fascinating, and I'll let Kevin explain what and why because he says it so much better than I do. So why is Europa such an amazing place for us to go and explore and learn about?
Oh my God. Europa is the most amazing place besides Earth, I think, in our entire solar system. So if you don't know what it is, here. So it's on the cover of my book. It's this thing right here. Silent plug. It's one of the moons of Jupiter. So it was discovered by Galileo in 1610, over 400 years ago. And it's about the size of our moon, but it has 2 to 3 times as much water as all of Earth. You're like, well, how is that possible? Because Earth is covered in like 75% of water, right? Well, our oceans are only about 4 kilometers deep on average, with the Marianas Trench and the Challenger Deep in the Marianas Trench being the deepest at about 11 kilometers deep. So Europa, we believe, has a 100-kilometer deep ocean globally, so all the way through this moon. So it's essentially like a ball of water that's frozen on the outside. And from what we know about life here on Earth, we think it's the best place to find life in our solar system besides Earth. So it's got water. Where we find life here on Earth, we find water. Where we find water, we find life. You go out to the ocean and you take a spoonful of some ocean, you're going to have millions of life in that. A bunch of little tiny bacteria, microbes, microorganisms. So that's what we're looking for out there. So Europa's got that. We can check that box. Then you need chemistry, the building blocks of life, the things we find in rocks. It specifically is carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur, abbreviated SCHNAPS. So I say you need SCHNAPS to make life. The adults like that joke when I'm talking to the kids. So looking for those elements in the right combination of molecules to build up life. Then we need energy, a way to power life. So here on Earth, we get the sun, but Jupiter is 5 times further away than we are from the sun. So the sun's rays can't really do photosynthesis. But what we're looking for out there, what we think is happening, is like something we see on our own ocean floor, where, 11 kilometers down, the sunlight only goes 200 meters, so it's pitch black, but there's life down there. There's see-through fish, there's hairy snails, there's underwater like volcanoes or black smokers, these chimneys releasing salts and minerals and energy, and they use chemosynthesis, chemical energy, instead of photosynthesis, light energy, to power life. And so Europa's kind of getting bigger and smaller. It's flexing, so it creates friction to create those underwater events on the sea floor, the ocean floor out there. So with those three combinations, we see it as like the most significant astrobiological potential of our solar system. And then Enceladus and Titan are right behind there. So you can see I got an Enceladus poster right here.
It really is one of my favorite topics to talk about. I mean, we could talk about that one all day. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump to one of the last questions here. Because I will. We'll be here for another hour. You know how much I love Europa too. So
yes.
we've had that conversation a couple times. So one of the things that you were talking about earlier on your show, A Place Called Space, like today you were doing the moon landing, and there's a lot of really great topics on there, but one of my favorites is exoplanets. We share a lot of astronomy news on our platforms on Space Foundation and on Discovery Center. People love hearing about it. So for people that may not know, can you tell us what an exoplanet is, how they are discovered, and also how they better help us understand the universe?
All right. Exoplanets are planets that are outside of our solar system. So a lot of people like to say it's a planet around another star. However, we have found rogue planets. So those are planets just like drifting out in space that aren't actually orbiting a star. So it's just a planet that is outside of our solar system. Now, how do we find them? There are 4 ways. So I'll try and go through these quickly. The first one and the easiest is the transit method. So that is, if we're looking at a star and a planet passes in front of that star, the brightness dips a little bit so we can see that. So easy. It's just got to be in our line of sight. The second one is called the wobble method. I love this one. But if we have a planet and then a star, I know this is Earth, but if this planet is so big, it will cause the star to wobble back and forth a little bit. So if we're looking at it straight on, we're going to see the star moving back and forth. So we look at stars in the sky, and if we see them wobbling, then we know that there's a planet around that star that causes it to wobble. All right, that's the second one. So the third one is called gravitational microlensing. So this one's tricky. It's essentially if you can line up 2 stars, you can use the first star as a magnifying glass to see the second star. It's really basic, rudimentary. It's obviously a lot more complicated than that. But as we're using a star as a magnifying glass, we can see more around that star that's really far away. Okay, and then the third one, that was microlensing. The fourth one, yes, 4, I'm gonna get these numbers right, is called imaging. So now with sophisticated telescopes and more advanced cameras and spectrometers, we can kind of directly image exoplanets. So what that means is if we're looking at a star, you can't see anything around that star because it's just so bright. But if we put a little block, so like if we block out the light from the star, we can see a planet next to the star because we have a little like black spot in the middle of our camera, which blocks out all of that light coming in, so we can see around the star and see the planets that are orbiting it better. So transit, wobble, microlensing, imaging. 4 ways for us to discover exoplanets. And they help us learn more about our place in this universe. Like we're looking for habitable exoplanets. Habitable meaning it can have life. Yeah. We're the only life that we have found in our entire universe thus far. Is there life out there? Was there life at some time? So looking at exoplanets, we want to find one that has an atmosphere rich in oxygen, because oxygen at that level can only be produced by life. You can't just have that abundance in the atmosphere normally. So we're like, that's it. Oh, there could be life there. There probably is. So that's why it's so important for us to continue to look for exoplanets, especially with the James Webb Space Telescope, which should be launching next year, to help us analyze those atmospheres of exoplanets to find those aliens.
That's awesome, man. So life in the universe, it's something that scientists are actively looking for. It really is an exciting time. There's so much going on, and there's so many other topics that we could talk about today. Like we're looking at there's Enceladus. We didn't get to that. So what I want everybody to do too is I just want to make a quick note that Kevin's going to be doing our Space4U podcast, the full length podcast, here very, very soon. So make sure that if you haven't yet, that you've checked that out. We're going to put the the website address in the comments, so that way you guys can find it and check it out. And Kevin, just a couple more questions before we get out of here and so that way we've got everybody teased and ready for like your podcast. Let's for the people that are listening today, the kids at home, even the parents, the people like me that you've inspired. What is it that you would give to us in way of advice to kind of follow in your footsteps and get into this career in the space industry like you did?
Yeah, maybe cliche, but I say never give up. From my story, you can see that like facing rejection after rejection is quite heart deafening. Like it really strikes you down. And you might be asking like, how do I never give up? So this is what I want to share: is that you need a why. Like the reason you're doing what you're doing, more than just like it sounds cool or it can make me a lot of money. Like I have the defining moment of watching October Sky, and that was what so inspired me to want to become a NASA rocket scientist. So as you're going through this journey, like you're going to get rejected. I hate to break it to you, it's not going to be perfect. If it is, you are a very, very fortunate, lucky individual. Count your blessings. Please tell me your story and how you did it so I can learn from you. But through the rejection, just finding that why. That why could be your mom, a friend, could be this interview right here. It could be one of Ron's videos, could be one of mine, could be Cosmos from Carl Sagan or Neil deGrasse Tyson, or a movie. Heck, Transformers could be the reason you want to go into outer space. And maybe you want to design a transformer at some time. So when things get tough, you need to pull on that. I watched October Sky over 50 times throughout college when homework is hard, tests were coming up, I was feeling deflated because I was stressed. Go back to the why, the reason you got into it in the first place, to help push you through to continue on to achieve that dream. Because you can make it happen. You just got to be willing to sacrifice what is necessary to make it come true.
Kevin, thank you so much for coming on today. Can you tell everybody where they can find you on social media and all the other places on the interwebs?
I live mainly on Instagram. It's at Kevin J. Debruin. No spaces, no dots, just all one word. And then on YouTube, it is a place called Space. That's where I'm going live right now. And then if you want to check out the book, it's on Amazon and Audible, or you can go to www.kevinjdebruin.com, and all the links live in there as well.
So awesome. And for everyone listening today, this is just a few of the amazing things that Kevin has been up to, as I said just a few minutes ago. So make sure to check out our upcoming podcast with him, Space4U, for an upcoming really interesting and in-depth interview with Kevin. We're going to talk about more of his incredible adventures in the space industry, American Ninja Warrior. He just did an Intel commercial not too long ago. Like he's been everywhere. We barely scratched the surface. So do make sure to subscribe to that. You can check it out on our website. Again, I'll drop that in the comments. And this concludes this episode of the first live edition of Space Foundation's Space4U podcast. So keep your eyes and ears open for more Space4U episodes by checking out our social media outlets on Facebook, right here, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and of course our website at spacefoundation.org and and discoverspace.org. And on all those outlets and more, it's our goal to inspire, educate, connect, and advocate for the space community. Because of the Space Foundation, we will always have space for you. Thank you so much for joining, and Kevin, thank you so much for being our guest today.
Yeah, thank you, Ron.
All right, we'll see you all soon.